Hello, this is Mary Jo Fox, and I'd like to share with you information about the kindergarten Rigby assessment and some of the updates. You might be wondering why make the changes. Well, last year in the 2014-15 school year, we received feedback from classroom teachers from the MTSS team that some students in 2nd and 3rd grade were very familiar with some of the QRI passages. In going and doing a data analysis of that QRI usage, we found indeed that was the case. And so we've made some changes. The purpose of these changes is so that our assessments will provide the most accurate information possible. So now what are these changes? Well, the first change, and probably the most important change, is that kindergarten will only use the Rigby benchmark assessments. QRIs will not be administered in kindergarten. Another piece that has been changed is we've identified a threshold for where to stop testing with the Rigby assessments. And then finally, how to communicate information on the student's reading level to parents. All of this information that I'm going to be sharing with you is found in the district guidelines, a packet that was passed out on August 7th at the district in-service. Now, the protocol for administering the Rigby benchmark assessment is staying the same. There are no changes to that. But what I would like to do is to go over the protocol so we can ensure that the assessment, the Rigby assessment, is administered with fidelity. First thing you do is you read the title of the book to the student and then read the introduction sentence that's provided on the text copy on the running record page. You then get your timer and you begin to record the number of minutes and seconds it took for the students to read the passage, and you record that on the recording sheet. On page 5 in the packet, you'll find this chart, which will identify for each book, for each level, the number of minutes. Once again, this has not changed. You will be using the standard coding conventions, the ones that we have been using all along, to record the students' reading behaviors. Again, those will be found on page 8. As the student is reading, it's important for the teacher to remain silent. There can be no prompting. If the student's stuck on a word, encourage the student to give it a try, or just ask the student to skip it if the student appears unable to figure out the word. If the student reads the same word incorrectly more than 2 times, we only count the first 2 as errors. Names are not counted as errors if they are read incorrectly. The names in the Rigby assessment are underlined. If a student skips a line of text when reading, do not intervene. Let the student continue reading and do not show them the place. You will count it as 1 error for every line skipped or every page skipped. You may have noticed that in the benchmark books, some of them the books are longer than what is on the running record sheet. The student should stop reading where the running record ends, even if they haven't finished the entire book. The comprehension questions are just from the part that the student has read up to that point. If this book does go beyond that, what is on the running record, after you're done reading the questions and the students have answered the questions, you may give the student the opportunity to look at the pictures for the rest of the story, but you don't go and tell them any more about the story. There is no strategy talk after the student has read the book. You just ask the student if they're ready for you to ask the questions, and you get started with the questions. When asking those comprehension questions, it's critical that you read the questions exactly as they are typed out on the back of the running record page. Even if a student is an ELL student, you may not paraphrase the question. The question may be repeated, but not clarified. If a student provides a partially correct answer, it is appropriate to say, "Can you tell me more?" And then what you do is you write down TMM, tell me more, next to their response. This should be used only when needed and not used to lead the student to a correct response. If a student's response is not one of the answers given, go back and first of all write down what the student says, and then go back to the text after you're done working with the student to see if it's substantiated with the information in the text. If it is, then you can consider that correct. Now for Rigby levels 1 through 11, you're going to be administering the comprehension questions, but you're not going to have those comprehension questions hold the student back if they don't reach the 75% threshold. So for levels 1 through 11, you're going to continue on to the next next level if the student has 90% or above word accuracy, and if the fluency is within that acceptable time, even if they don't receive 75% accuracy for comprehension. On level 12 and beyond, you're going to continue with the next book if the student scores above 90% on word accuracy, is 75% or above on comprehension, and if the fluency is within the acceptable time. To figure out the student's accuracy rate, you divide the number of words read correctly by the total number of words. You record that on the running record page. This is a new piece, the threshold for where to stop testing. As we are moving into our new standards, where we're really expecting students to go deeper with the comprehension, what we are going to do is not go beyond Rigby level 18 at the beginning of the year, not go beyond Rigby level 19 at mid-year, and not go beyond Rigby level 20 at end of year. With sticking with those levels, we are able to see that the student is reading considerably above grade level, that they are candidates for going and using those high-achieving reader materials, for going and using complex picture books, for going and doing that research with informational text, and really use our instructional time to dig deeper with the comprehension. And within those levels, there will be complex words, multisyllabic words, but we're going to be focusing on that versus trying to push the students up to higher levels for their word accuracy. We're really going to be focusing on that comprehension. No matter what level the students are at, though, we will not be administering a QRI in kindergarten. To record the student's instructional level, we record the highest passing level scored by the student where they meet the passing criteria. And as we said before, it has to be 90% or above on word accuracy, 75% or above on comprehension for levels 12 and up, and within the time allotment for the passage. You might be asking, what do I do for that student that passes that level 18 at the beginning of the year, at mid-year passes a level 19, or at end of year passes the level 20? Well, what you will do is you will record for if they pass at the beginning of the year, that level 18, you'll record at or above Rigby level 18. Mid-year, if they pass level 19, you'll record at or above Rigby level 19. At the end of the year or fourth quarter, you'll record for the students passing Rigby level 20, you'll record at or above Rigby 20. That will give you the instructional information you need to know that you need to have these students in higher level text and really focus on that comprehension. Now, the kindergarten expectations have not changed, and you would find these on page 9, and you'll see they're exactly as we have been working with them with. At the end of quarter 1, for students to be on grade level, they would be pre-emergent 0 to 1. For them to be above level, they'd be at a Rigby 2 or above. At the end of second quarter, they'd be considered below if they're below a 0. On if they're a Rigby 0 to 1, above if they're a Rigby 2 or above. At the end of third quarter, they'd need to be, if they were considered below, they'd be at a Rigby 1 or below. To be considered on grade level, they'd need to be reading at a Rigby 2 or 3. And at the end of the third quarter, they'd need to be reading at a Rigby 4 or above. At the end of the year, which would be the end of quarter 4, if a student would be considered below grade level, if they're reading at a Rigby level 3 or below, they'd be considered on grade level if they're reading at a Rigby 4, and can be considered above grade level at the end of fourth quarter if they're reading a Rigby 5 or above. Communicating with parents. At the end of the 2014-15 school year, we had a change in this. What I have identified is that in written and verbal communication with parents, not to share the actual Rigby benchmark reading level. Please just identify for parents if their child is reading on, above, or below the grade level expectation. And if parents want more information, show them a copy of the text that's considered on grade level. I anticipate that this coming year we're going to have a lot of questions on this from parents who had older siblings where we did provide the Rigby benchmark reading level or the QRI level. If you are working with a parent who is very adamant about getting that reading level, that's a time when just to refer them to the principal. What we really feel that giving the parents that on, above, or below gives them enough information without giving them information that then they often use to go and compare their child with other children. Any questions? If you do, please feel free to visit with your building IRT or your grade level IRTs, Linda Boxberger and Erica Mickelson. Always feel free also to give me a call or to email me. I'd love to support you with any question that you may have. Thank you very much.